Yes, guys, what's good? It's your boy Gerns from Mango Masala, Pi Radio's South Asian show, and I'm joined here today by Yanchan from Canada. Do you want to maybe just tell me a bit about how you obviously started off a bit more, maybe traditional Tamil style um, percussion, and now have gone into what is arguably more Western production styles?
So I started playing a South Indian drum called the mridangam at the age of 6. So that's something I was naturally drawn to after watching someone play. And from there, I developed a really big passion for that drum. And the whole goal was I want to be the best mridangam player in the world. So I actually traveled to India when I was 13 by myself and stayed with my teacher at the time at his house and literally had camp style training, like practicing 8 hours a day for like 3 months straight. And that was the whole goal, my first goal. Like, I thought I was just gonna be living in India, really conquering the scene out there. But obviously, I had to come back to Canada, finish high school and stuff. And then going in high school, that's when I really started. A lot of my friends would listen to a lot of Drake, a lot of Missy, a lot of hip hop and rap. The crazy thing is, back then I wouldn't want to listen to any other genre except Carnatic music. Like it was all South Indian classical. That's if you came into my car, that's all you would see. But then I started developing a new passion for hip hop music. And I'm like, man, the rhythmic drums and textures are really similar to what I've learned with Mridangam. And then when I started studying producers like Timbaland, he was like the first producer who really sampled like North Indian drums and North Indian samples. And he made hits from them. Like certain songs with Missy Elliott, Get Your Freak On, there's like a tabla roll,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's like the iconic role that's what like a part of that makes a song. So when I started like really start going into depth with those type of productions, I'm like, how come I've never heard a Mridangam hip hop record? How come I've never heard a Kenjira, a Garam, like all these instruments and sounds that I grew up loving? I'm like, let me try introducing them into hip hop. And that's when the idea came. And from then on, I started producing on my own. And I've always sang. Naturally, being a Mridangam player, I went to Carnatic vocal lessons as well. So I had that background in South Indian classical singing. And then I started releasing my own music as an artist. But now, I pivoted more into really pushing the brand as a producer because I really feel like for me, I want to make an imprint the same way Timbaland, Pharrell, like Dr. Dre, those guys did in my own way.
Listening to your work, I wanted to know from the compositional side of things, when you're making music, do you get the beat first and then add the instrumental, like the melodies, or do you get the melody and then you think, oh, okay, this beat would work with that?
So it just depends on the day, the vibe. If I'm working with artists, it depends on what their vision is too.
Mm.
But typically speaking, I, I love starting off with a sample because I feel like it's like the start of an adventure. You take a pre-existing song and you strip it and you try to rearrange it and create something new out of it, right? Give it new
Yeah,
light, new perspective. So that's why if you look at a lot of my TikTok and like IG Reel videos, you'll see me like decipher like Tamil songs, iconic Tamil songs, right from the 90s, and then bringing them back, chopping it up into a hip hop beat or any other genre, right? So I would say that's like the typical process of like Janssen production. But sometimes no. If I feel like I want a fast drum beat, I'll start with the drum loop and then I'll add the melodies on top as well.
yeah, because I was going to ask as well. Obviously, I'm by no means a producer, but I've like dabbled in various in producing softwares, and I know you can obviously record live, but you can also do MIDI tracks, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, which do you prefer? Do you prefer to like get live music and then cut that up and move it around and then make a track out of that, or do you prefer to sit at the computer and just do it all digitally?
I mean, now I'm kind of used to doing a lot more productions digitally with MIDI, so I love that process for me. But I would definitely like to explore more live instrumentation. I mean, like a lot of loops that I have are like live drums that I'll just chop up. But I eventually want to release my own packs because I'm a drummer as well. So I want to, have a whole bank of like my own drum samples and sample myself. But I think with hip hop, especially, a lot of it is MIDI driven with the drums, the 808s. And for me, when I'm working with artists, especially, I want it to be easy, fast, and effective. So definitely MIDI is like up there for me.
Sampling yourself, like you said, that's I've never really thought about that before. That's like very like Inception style, like
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool actually. So thinking about your most recent release, the Scarborough Beat Tape.
Yeah.
So see, when I first saw the title of that, I was like, has he been on a trip to the UK and been to Scarborough or something? And then I actually looked into it and I realized, oh, Scarborough is actually a place in Canada as well. So do you
Oh,
want
there's
to,
a place called Scarborough in UK. I didn't even know that.
yeah, like, have you heard of Simon and Garfunkel? The
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there's a really famous song by them called "Have You Been to Scarborough Fair?" Yeah, it's a seaside town, so that's what I know Scarborough to be. But
Interesting.
then obviously for you, it's a totally different meaning. So do you want to
Yeah.
just tell me a bit about? I presume that's where you've grown up, etc.
Yeah, I mean, like even right now, we're having this interview. This is my home studio out here in Scarborough. So I was born and raised in this town. It's in Toronto. It's a town filled with a lot of different cultures, especially Tamil culture. And that was one of the things that I was really fond of growing up. I don't think you'll find any other place outside of Sri Lanka and India where you'll see such a tight knit Tamil community and a lot of Tamil culture like in the community, right? Like I can walk down the street right now and go to a Tamil store, food store, and get the Tamil food. Like it's just there.
Yeah.
And last year before COVID, I went on an India tour accompanying Sean Vincent de Paul.
Mm.
And after that trip, I released something called the India Beat Tape. And that was more of an experiment because I knew people always liked my productions. I knew that was my biggest strength, but I never actually put out a tape like that, just music on Spotify and pushed it out. And I pushed it out and organically, like it started doing really well. Like I just hit 200,000 streams all organically. I didn't put any money behind it. It was more just word of mouth pushing lightly on social media. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, maybe, there's something to this. Let me keep exploring this. And then with COVID, I wasn't able to travel, obviously, to any other countries. The goal was after India, I was going to travel to other countries like Malaysia, Singapore, and I would take in all the inspiration and release it in the form of a beat tape. And then I'm like, like I'm making beats every day at home. You know, Scarborough is what raised me. There's so much memories and experience I've had here. Why don't I take those memories and experiences and put it in this tape and do like a love letter to the city that I love. And then, yeah, man, my team and I, shout out Mike and TJ, we conceptualized this whole project and we put it out, and it's been doing amazing, man. I can't thank everyone enough for like listening and really taking in this project.
Also, can I just ask? So the way you say it is Scarborough, is that correct?
Scarborough,
Scarborough.
Scarborough.
That's really interesting because we say Scarborough,
But you say borough.
like borough.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it is. It's supposed to be Scarborough. It's a borough, right? Scarborough, but we call it just Scarborough. Yeah, Scarborough.
Like you say, it's you've been sort of trapped. Well, I use trap. Trap sounds quite negative, but you've been stuck in your
Yeah.
home area. Um, so obviously, like you said, there's a lot of Tamil culture around where you've grown up. Is that the reason, or is that the main source of influence throughout the tape, or or are there other sorts of influences that have come into it?
That's definitely a big one. Like if you look at all the samples, Tamil samples I've used in the tape, those are all songs that I would have heard if I'm going to a Tamil store. I would have heard watching a movie growing up with my parents in our home in Scarborough, or going on a car ride with my friends, blasting Tamil hits. Right. So a lot of influences do come from that. But then there's also like we have a lot of like for example, one of the title tracks was called East Town, and East Town was like one of the staple banquet halls to have like Tamil parties, birthday parties, and it was like this kind of like scary looking place when you back in the day when you had to go down the stairs, and it's like two different. You never know what party you're going to end up in. It's like those type of memories I want to really bring into, and those type of feelings I want to bring this tape to. So I definitely tried exploring some different sounds that I'm not used to typically putting. So you'll hear that if you listen to the India Beat Tape and the Scarborough Beat Tape, you'll hear the difference.
Exactly, yeah. Because I was gonna say with the India beat tape, it definitely sounded a lot more. Because I think you could definitely hear the South Asian influences in both, but in the India beat tape, it was a lot more. percussive, whereas in the Scarborough Beat Tape, it there was a lot more use, at least from my perspective, there was a lot more use of other production techniques and what's it called? Synths and loops, like
Yeah,
I mean, the stuff that you can kind of like do yourself, like on the actual recording system.
yeah, and that was something that, because for me, it's like every project needs to elevate from the last. Trying to try something different that hasn't been tried in the last project. Because I want people to see the progression, right? Okay, where from the last project to this one, and in the India beat tape, yeah. If you listen to Scarborough beat tape, I use my voice as an instrument more in this tape. In the India beat tape, I didn't even use my vocals. But for me, it's so important that I shed light that I'm a singer. So that's why it was cool to hear some tracks like Perfects. You'll hear my voice like lingering in the background of Military Trail as like more as a hum, more as a vocal sample.
Mm.
So that was definitely something I'm like, okay, we need to put more of that in this.
That's interesting, actually, because one of the things I was going to ask was, besides the Scarborough Beat Tape, another release that you've put out, I think, as a single was Die For Me,
Yeah.
which, listening to that, like you say, you've used your voice on various tracks, but listening to Die For Me, it was interesting to hear one of your tracks where there is actual tangible words, if that makes sense, like rather than singing and it being chopped up or being part of the background, it's more like a song in that sense.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, like, do you prefer it when it's more instrumental and you're kind of making your own sort of thing out of it, or do you prefer it when you're making the production for the almost the accompaniment to the voice?
I think it depends. Like when I use my voice as a vocal sample, I never really did that a lot. If you look at my previous projects that I've released. But after the Scarborough Beat Tape, I definitely feel like that could be a part of my signature sound now. And I think that can in itself can, I hope that other producers take inspiration from that and start doing it themselves. Because a lot of producers can produce, but I don't think there's many producers out there that can also sing as well. So it'd be cool to see other people do that. But when it comes to like putting actual lyrics in full songs, like I said, I've sang my whole life as well, and I've put out bodies of work as just me as a singer. So that's definitely important to me as well. I want, because like let's be honest, like artists at the end of the day are like really vulnerable, right? And we share our experiences to whatever we're going through, and we put it in the form of song. So I love the raw emotions that come, right? Like if I'm feeling really sad about something or really happy, like putting that into a full song for sure. It's very therapeutic. And the hopes is that it resonates with people too, right? So you'll definitely hear me still do tracks with full lyrics, like verses. But specifically for this tape, I think everything came together. Like this tape was like, this is where Yanchan is now.
Well, that's cool as well to be able to listen to each of the tapes, both that you've already put out and that will come in the future, and be able to see, like you say, that's where Johnson is. That's the progression that's happened. He's gone in this direction, that direction, wherever. So yeah, that is very cool to like almost have that as a catalog of your life experiences in a sense.
Yeah, man, you put it right. Like this is like music is my life. I live and breathe music. Everything I do every day is for a goal regarding music, right? So when I put out these bodies of work, it is a representation of where I am in a moment of time. So like yeah, man, like the same way Drake can look back now at his catalog and see the impact he's made. I'm sure he looks back from where he starts like, oh man, like damn, I can't believe where I am now. I want to be able to look back at my catalog and be like, okay, like I actually put in all the work that I could all the time to really put out really good quality work. Because that's I think that's really important for me and my brand.
So you've touched on it a bit already, but I'm just curious to know if you could simplify as much as possible, because I'm sure it's a bit different each time. But what is your composition process? If you sit down and you're like, right, I want to make a track today, like how do you go about doing it?
So when I'm making my songs, when I'm singing, sometimes I'll just be playing around with the loop and I'll get an idea for a melody. And for me, it's important when I get those melodies, I record them right away if I really feel like it's strong enough. So I'll just mumble hums like on my microphone over here, and then I'll decipher those hums and come up with a concept. Okay, what am I feeling? What's the concept here? And then put lyrics. And I have an amazing team behind me too. Shout out to Born to Sin. He's been one of the main songwriters I've been working with since the beginning. So he's written a lot of my songs like Believe, even a part of Die For Me and stuff. So I think it's important when you're making songs, the collaborative effort definitely helps in making the song that much better. But yeah, man, just like making beats, it depends. Sometimes it's melody. Most of the time for me, it's melody driven. I'll just hear certain sounds, certain things. I'm like, okay, this sticks. Let's keep moving forward with it.
And is there a particular software that you like using the most?
Yeah, so I go between Pro Tools and Ableton. If it was up to me, I would just use Ableton for everything. But knowing the ins and outs of Pro Tools is definitely helpful when you go into other studios because that's the standard. So I love Pro Tools for just tracking vocals, tracking anything. And then I love Ableton for producing and mixing. So that's usually the process that I work with.
Would you say that you look up to any particular artists or producers as your influences, or do you look more to the traditional Tamil music?
Growing up, definitely a lot of influence of like just straight Tamil music and South Indian classical music. Even till this day, I'm always like in the mornings, for me, that's like meditation almost, listening to certain South Indian songs. Um, but for me, yeah, like a lot of influences come from the town music itself. Um, but yeah, like studying artists like Timbaland, I get a lot of inspiration. Like studying people that I grew up loving, I definitely take away so much inspiration from them as well. So like, namely Timbaland, A.R. Rahman for sure. He was the first producer to really branch out into the American markets, and that gave me more confidence to try and explore different sounds.
So, coming to the end of the interview now, obviously you're in the midst of the Scarborough tape um, in terms of giving that out to the world and selling it, etc. But after that, what have we got to expect from you? Have you got the next tape planned or any ideas, or do you reckon you'll take a bit of time for inspiration? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always working on music, even while these projects are coming out. So you can expect a lot more. You can expect some singles with the Kotte Boys. That's with me and Sean. That's still something that's important to me. And then actually, I'm working on a project with Sam out from the UK as well.
Really, you know
Yeah,
what? I regret it now because I was gonna ask you like, oh yeah, do you know any Tamil artists from the UK? And I was
yeah.
like, yeah, nah, probably not. Like, but no, that's really cool. So do you know Prit as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Prit, Sam, when he came to Canada a few years back, and then we made a few songs together, and he was featured on my Sentimental Kids album too. And our first song happened like this that I put out. That was one of my biggest releases till this day as an independent artist. So after the success from that, and seeing our natural chemistry as artists, I'm like, man, it would be dope for us to do a project together. So we actually have a full project that's done, completed. So you can
Sweet.
expect something like that coming later on this year as well.
No, yeah, definitely look forward to that because obviously he's put out his EP with Prit recently, which has been really nice to listen to. I think they have great chemistry. So yeah, I can't wait
Definitely.
to see that project coming from you guys as well. So, in terms of obviously you've got that collaboration coming up, have you got any plans to maybe visit the UK at any point?
Yeah, I mean, man, once COVID is done and I'm able to fly, uh, I want to go everywhere. And I think, I'm sure you feel the same way in the sense that like I've been cooped up for too long now.
Yeah,
And I love getting inspiration from traveling to different places. I think a lot of people do. So UK is definitely there. I definitely want to do like a full-on tour out there, UK, Malaysia, Singapore, back to India. I definitely see growing markets in all those areas that I want to come out and perform, man, for sure.
Well, if you're ever up in Manchester, you know where to find us. Like literally just give us a bell and it'd be great to like see you in person or get you in the
Definitely,
studio, that sort of thing.
definitely, man, definitely.